Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our tactical breakdown series, our show in which we look at the players that have been linked to Arsenal, break them down in a statistical and analytical way with the help, of course, of some expert insight. And for today's show, despite all of the furore and chaos going around Martin Odegaard and, of course, Lautaro Martinez, who you can expect a breakdown on him very soon too. But in today's show, we're going to be talking about a player that was linked to us in the last 24 hours called Matchoi Djalo, who is a player and a winger, 18-year-old for Paços de Ferreira, which I've been trying to practice the pronunciation. And I'm trying to understand kind of the little accents on words, specifically regarding kind of the Portuguese side of things. And with the little C and the little accent underneath the C, it's like it's not a sh sound. It's not the Spanish of kind of that area. It's more of an S sort of sound. So Paços de Ferreira. So there you go. Best I can do, I'm afraid. And I'm sure our Portuguese listeners are going to absolutely ruin me for it. But someone that can tell you a lot more about Matchoi Djalo and pronounce him exceptionally better than I can is our expert insight of the day. And Mateus Carvalho, who is a Portuguese football expert and writer who writes over at Outside of the Boot, a fantastic website that I myself have contributed to in the past. So let's find out all about this 18-year-old and what he could bring to the Arsenal party.
Hi Gunners fans, I am here to present to you Matchoi Djalo, the latest Portuguese youngster being linked with Arsenal. A little bit about his background story. He's a Guinean Portuguese who arrived at age 14 in Portugal to play for Paços, a club of the Portuguese First Division. He's one of those players, young players, that's always one step ahead. He plays for the youth teams above his age rank. He made his professional debut at age 16 and scored his first professional goal at age 17. He's a very premature player. And although he's not a regular still at the senior side of Paços, and Paços, despite being unknown in the United Kingdom, is a very good team, Portuguese team that always contends for playing in European competitions. So yeah, he is not a regular on the last two seasons at Paços, but this preseason he's been given a starting job. And he just recently got injured, but he should recover soon and grab back that starting spot. A little bit more about the player. He is primarily a winger. He's right-footed but equally gifted, and he usually plays from the left-hand side and then wanders to more central areas where he's a keen passer, good passer. Unlike most Portuguese young wingers, he has a great vision of the game. He's not too selfish. And yeah, he can also play as a center offensive midfielder, not a classic number 10, but he can play from those areas of the pitch. Despite being short, he has great composure. And yeah, he's been known to take some set pieces. He has a good mid-range game. If I had to do a player comparison with a Portuguese winger, I would say Nani. Mainly Nani in the later stages of his career, where he started playing in more central areas of the pitch, coming from the sides to the center and trying to make last passes, finishing from a distance. About his fit for Arsenal, I don't think he would make an immediate impact like, for example, a Bukayo Saka, because he does not know the ins and outs of English football, but he can certainly make part of Arsenal's strategy to recruit young and relatively unknown players and then just developing them. An example that comes to mind is Gabriel Martinelli. So yeah, I think he certainly would make sense for Arsenal in a long-term perspective. And who knows, he can do a little bit in Arsenal what he's been doing in the last seasons in Paços. He's a young player, trains with the first squad, and then just soaks up every minute that he gets and makes the most out of it. So that's my presentation of Matchoi Djalo.
A massive thank you to Mateus for helping us out there. If you want to go and give him a follow on Twitter, you can find him at Matchoi Djalo, and he'll give you any more information if you want to ask him any specific questions, I am sure. But a massive thank you again to him. And it's interesting, of course, to try and give you a little bit of context around the kind of level of signing this would be. This is very much a young 18-year-old kid that's not on the same kind of levels of your Bukayo Sakas and youngsters of that level. This is someone that I imagine would be brought in and be put in straight in that under-23 squad specifically. We've obviously already signed a couple of people this summer. We've seen Armani Richards come in. We've seen also Biereth, the young 18-year-old striker from Fulham, come in too. And we seem to be kind of adding in this area as well and strengthening that young group of players. I mean, if we actually have a look at him as a player and kind of what he's done so far, 18 years of age, 5'9", contract up until 2022, which is obviously next year. And that means that he is available for a much lower fee than maybe if he was under a longer term contract. The rumoured figure is only around £1 million. So it's not a massive investment. It's not a high risk scenario. It's certainly one for the future. He's not scored any goals or got any assists so far at the kind of senior level for Passos this season. He did score last season, or rather the season before last in 1920. He got his first goal at the age of 17 in the top Portuguese division. So making his way in there. And as Mateus said there, he's getting minutes in the starting first team in pre-season. So this season would probably be his breakout year in that Passos team. Maybe it would be an interesting dynamic to see Arsenal signing and maybe loan him back there for the following season to get a full year in the first team squad before then obviously returning and seeing what you want to do in that sense. But in regards to kind of where he would fit in with the kind of players that are already at Arsenal, of course, it's important to look at kind of those areas of the under-23 squad like we did with Biereth. You start off with Kido Taylor-Hart, who we are very much still expecting to sign that new deal and for it to become kind of official. Chris Wheatley has reported that that is a situation that should be sorted out, we'd hope, very soon. Last year playing in the under-23s, 13 appearances, 4 goals, no assists, playing in wide areas is where he can often play, can play more centrally too. You've also got George Lewis, who's the Norwegian guy we brought in from Fram Larvik in the summer of 2020. He's not done too badly. He did have a serious injury throughout the season, which limited his performance levels. So he only has 10 performances and 1 assist so far for the under-23s. And he is one of those players that could go out on loan and is certainly being put up for loan this summer. And we'll see how he gets on. It would be tough to imagine him now as a 21-year-old. He turns 22, I think, next year, getting kind of any opportunity in the Arsenal first team in the future. He would have to have a big season on loan for that to become any kind of factor, I imagine. So he's kind of one that's there as, well, I thought anyway, was brought in as a bit of filler for the under-23 squad and probably end up playing elsewhere other than Arsenal in the future. But who knows? Loan deal is possible and something that maybe will really hype up his profile. You've then got Joel Idaho, 18-year-old Dutch. We brought him from Ajax, really interesting player. Got 5 goals, 3 assists from a wide area in the under-18s in 13 appearances, which are really good return. And there is a lot highly thought of Joel Idaho and seeing kind of what might happen with him. But he's a really interesting one to make sure you keep your eyes on. And then lastly, we've got Marcelo Flores, still 17 years of age, under 18 appearances. He's got 5 and 4 goals and 2 assists. He's really obviously he's someone that when we look at players like this, he's a Canadian. I don't know if he's a youth international for Canada, but he certainly comes from over there and joined the club. And just looking down his profile there, he actually joined us from Ipswich. So I don't know if he was. Was he born in Canada? He was born in Canada. He was born in Ontario. So there you are. More Canadian talent coming through to follow the likes of Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies. It's really interesting kind of looking into that Canadian side of football and North American football as a whole and how it's developing too. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he develops. But he came through at Ipswich's youth and then has joined up with Arsenal's back in 2020, and he's making a bit of a scene on the under-20, under-18 stage that it is. So really interesting stuff from him. And I mean, when you see about our player Matchoi Djalo, if he does come into the Arsenal setup in some way, in some form, then you would obviously expect him to kind of do something and maybe join up with that possible squad. So it's going to be an interesting one that we see next season if he is indeed signed. It would be very cheap and very easy to get that deal done, but it's about whether or not they see him as a long-term option. So there you go. We will jump into the chat box and get some of your thoughts and feelings about this. This isn't exactly one of those signings to lose your minds over. It's certainly one that is a long-term project and certainly one that I wouldn't get too upset about if it turns out to be one of the few signings Arsenal get done so far this window. Hopefully that won't be the case. So Sheath King, who asked, is Djalo a Tavares / Lokonga kind of level signing? No, he wouldn't be going into the Arsenal first team. He'd either be loaned back out or be going straight into that under-23 squad, I would imagine. Thibaut Pest says, is a young 18-year-old younger than an old 17-year-old? I mean, yeah, it's different. It's obviously different, but is it younger than an old 17-year-old? No, because maths, Thibaut, maths. That's how maths works. Manos says, why are we signing him? Does Marseille need a central midfielder? I mean, I understand the joke. We sign young players and we've sent a couple of them to Marseille this season. But the thing is it's important to replenish your young side. It's important to identify talent. I would be shocked to see people getting irritated about this as a signing. It's always important to go out and scout for really important young talent on really good kind of deals, which this one would be at £1 million, which is just not a lot of money whatsoever. Gregory says he's a long-term project, says the Daily Cannon, and he's only 5'9". So he, as I said before, he is very short. Alan says the Mexican and Canadian national team are fighting over Flores. Oh, so there's Mexican heritage in there as well. I hope he does stick with Canada because I kind of want to see Canadian football really take off a little bit more. We've obviously seen Theo Corbeanu of Wolves do really well in the Gold Cup, and obviously now I think Canada are in the semi-finals of the Gold Cup too, and they've not had Alphonso Davies or Jonathan David, I don't think. So it'll be good luck to them as they play Mexico, I think, in the semi-finals, and the United States will have, I'm not sure the United States have actually got, someone will know in the chat, but I know that Canada are facing Mexico. So that will certainly be an interesting tie to get to the final. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Josh Hunter says described as nanny. So he found a promising flair and skillful winger. If you look at a couple of clips of him, which you can obviously find online, you do see him very tricky and skillful on the ball. So he's certainly someone to keep an eye on in that sense. Jomo says he's a decent addition to the academy since they'll possibly be having up to 8 players on loan. And we know every year they send out a load of players on loan, which limits the capacity of how strong that youth team can be. So, yeah, it's obviously important to bring in players that are going to be part of it. Or you never know. He may go. It's Qatar. Thank you ever so much, Kanav. Is it strange that Qatar's involved in the Gold Cup? I don't know how that works. But yeah, maybe it's because of the whole World Cup situation. Sam Dowie says, what prospects do you really think will make it at Arsenal? Of the kids that we've got, Kido Taylor-Hart looks really good. I like Catalan Kurjan, who's another guy coming through too. And you've got guys like Daniel Ballard, who spent time on loan and has gone on loan this season, of course, to Millwall and actually played against Arsenal in that pre-season friendly. We've got some kids. Okonkwo, whilst has looked a little bit questionable in pre-season, I say a little bit as a little bit of an understatement, but I think he's certainly got a big future ahead of him as well. Social says, if we had our own sister clubs, we could sign the under-18s and really snap up the cheap young potential. Sitte are doing things right. And I'd certainly think that I agree with you in regards to that. Social Arsenal do need to look into kind of getting a sister club or a feeder club involved in association with that. We've already talked about this a hell of a lot with kind of young players being signed at these young ages that they aren't allowed to sign in the UK because of the whole Brexit situation, but they can sign in the continent, and then when they reach a certain age they can then be brought over. Manchester City have got like 8-9 old clubs in their City Football Group, and it's certainly Arsenal are sleeping on this kind of thing. I think it's certainly something that Arsenal need to look to doing. Alan says, I absolutely love these types of signings. We need to continue to replenish our academy. It will benefit us massively in the long one. Thibaut Pest says a Lorient or Dijon would be good. Someone like that can produce these talents. I'm sure that Jeremy Smith will be able to tell you who's the best club to try and find an association with that's producing plenty of young talent. And obviously it's not just about that. It's about them being able to sign the young talent from, say, like the likes of South America or Asia, places like that where you need certain work permits to kind of get these deals done. And that's what we ultimately need. Tino says, Djalo is a class player with loads of potential. He's definitely one to look out for. Very strong and versatile. Reckon he can even play as right back as a utility player. Definitely a player to look at. Tino seems a little bit of an expert on Djalo. So an interesting one there. Anyway, we're going to wrap things up there. Only a little quick tactical breakdown for you guys on a very young prospect of a signing. Tomorrow, we'll see if we can bring you a tactical breakdown on a target such as Lautaro Martinez, which may tickle your fancy just that little bit more. Please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. You can also help the channel by voting for us in the Football Content Awards. All you need to do is look at the information that's scrolling across the bottom of your screen now. If you want to go onto Twitter and tweet out, I am voting for @the_Gooner_talk in @the_FCAs for hashtag best content creator. Best club content creator, best club creator. It's right below me. There you go. I should know what category I'm in. So there you go. Anyway, see you soon, guys. See you tomorrow morning for the transfer update. But other than that, it's been a pleasure. And as always, up the Arsenal.